Welcome to Growing in Uncertainty. My name is Tess Miller. I am a coach, a presenter, a sound healer, a music practitioner at Wings Unfolded. And I am so excited. We're doing something a little bit different today on Growing in Uncertainty. And we have a guest, my friend Clarissa Czubak, and also office space owner, I guess I'll call it, in downtown St. John's. We are in a place, Clare's business is called Infinity Wellness, and mine is Wings Unfolded, as you know. And Clare is a Reiki practitioner, a Reiki master, a shamanic healer. And I'm just so excited to introduce you all to her and to ask her some really powerful questions today. So welcome, Clare.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit more, because I gave like a teeny tiny synopsis of what it is that you do, but I know there's so much more. So can you tell everyone a little bit more about what you do, and how you became interested in your healing modalities?
Sure. I feel like I'm like a Jackie of all trades in healing modalities. Doing Reiki is energy healing, and reflexology is more like body healing, and then the shamanic is more, more spiritual healing. So mind, body, spirit aspects, and also just having a cool little shop with fun little spiritual things in it, essential oils and different stones and crystals and books and fun stuff like that. And yeah, I kind of fell into this stuff. It was just, it's inherent. My favorite Disney character is Pocahontas, but living the dream of that kind of sort of thing of just healing, with the community and the in touch stuff that I have spiritually, I guess. I always wanted to, help other people and serve my community, and this type of work really helped me with that. And so I just have been able to instill, different spiritual concepts, and people have been reciprocating. It's good.
Awesome. Very cool. So when Clare agreed to join me today, I asked her, what do you think you want to talk about? And without missing a beat, you basically said triggers. So
not realizing Mercury retrograde was happening.
right. So I know that a lot of us have our own ideas about what triggers are when we use the word trigger, but I'm curious to know how you would define a trigger.
Wow. Well, it's some place that is definitely still very much open wounds, an open wounded trigger. Certain people trigger me, and it takes me to either a very joyful place or a very awful place. And just so it's either or. Trigger can be a good thing or a bad thing, I guess, but definitely places that still need to be healed.
Yeah, I love that acknowledgement that triggers can actually be a joyful thing too. I feel like we spend a lot of time thinking about the negative triggers, because we're humans, and I think we have a tendency to, fixate on the negative a lot. But that's a really great point, that there are some really positive triggers in our lives too, and how might we honor them, you know, in a way that maybe could foster a little bit more healing. I don't know. Um, so what do you consider to be your biggest trigger at the moment in these days?
Mm, I have financial triggers. uh, just and being able, that's a lot of ego, and being at the right frequency, and being able to know that I am worthy still. I guess that's a big trigger, is worthiness, the financial strains, and feeling worthy that, you can get over these. Being an entrepreneur, I have tons of triggers, and it's triggers in which, like, uh, you have to be quick to either, make a decision or retract a decision, and also just being able to, take on colleagues, trusting yourself, sharing a space with another person, and it triggering, how are you going to go about this, how are you going to work well with others, how are you going to share, and in that aspect. And so I feel like, yeah, being a new business owner and having a small business, there's triggers.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Um, what do you experience when you are having a trigger? If you don't mind sharing, you know, what do you go through mentally, emotionally, or even spiritually when you are triggered?
I feel bad. It's probably written on my face. I shut down, unfortunately. It is so written on my face that I'm utterly disgusted. And I shut down, and it takes everything out of me, mind, body, spirit, like something has just sucked my balloon, and I, totally deflated. And that's basically, yeah, all my defenses, everything comes down, and I'm left, my nonverbal cues give it away totally.
Well, I think that it takes a lot of courage to admit that, you know, as a healer, as healers, we don't necessarily have Teflon always in every single situation when it comes to triggers. So, you know, it's refreshing to hear that, you know, it's something that you're continually working on in yourself, and you're obviously aware of what happens when you are triggered, that total shutdown. um you know, so how has your reaction to triggers evolved over the course of your life?
mm, I feel like I've had way more stories like David and Goliath, and I have overcome these demons and just took on a new set of armor. I don't know if it's because I'm working with guardian angels or ancestors, but I just get this cloak on and I'm like, nope, not today, Satan. And I just wing it and I go with it, and and I just embrace it, and try so very hard to separate my ego, because that needs to be detached in order to defeat.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point, that the ego is definitely something that we have to face when we are triggered, and it's something that can sort of get in the way of that process, right? um
Hmm.
how how do you deal with your ego in the moment?
I'm kind of like a deer in the headlights. Obviously, I shut down. I mean, I I'm not the best at doing it right away. My OODA loop is very slow. And so it takes a while. Unfortunately, it takes a minute. But once I figure it out, then I'm good. I'm good to go. I have figured it out and mastered it, but only because I'll see a reoccurring theme, or one of the synapses finally, fires away.
Yeah. Yeah, the theme aspect of being triggered is I in my life anyway has been really helpful. Like, oh yeah, I remember this. It kind of acts as like a red flag. Um, to kind of bring you out of that trance that triggers can kind of put over us, and
It's like right before the fight or flight, right before the precipice of it.
yeah, exactly. So how did you get to the point where you could notice that red flag, or that, oh wait a minute, this is a theme that I've seen before?
Discipline. having the discipline. It unfortunately, I learn really hard, and so it's the discipline of it. And I don't know how many times I can get beaten over the head with the word detach and detachment, and being able to separate that.
Right. And what does detachment mean to you?
Be able to separate myself. Sorry, I have to plug in my phone. I know, technical errors. Thank you, Mercury in retrograde. As a Reiki master, you have to separate yourself from ego and personality. And so the best way to demonstrate that is to learning how to separate myself from ego and personality. And really, when you call that in and you ask for that type of support, that is when the healing can occur, because it's those human constructs that get in the way of true healing.
Yeah, that's a really important tool to have, right? Like, just to be able to have that practice of, I'm a human, but I do need to separate myself from these constructs that I know that I fall into. Sometimes it must take a lot of self-awareness and mindfulness. So, my next question was, how has your spiritual practice helped with or affected your reactions and responses to being triggered? You sort of answered, but what else could you add to how your practice has helped you with triggers?
Yet again, being able to just separate and be able to have almost like an out-of-body experience of being able to look from a different perspective, being able to empathize, be able to sympathize. I think that in Reiki, it's energy healing, but it's energy healing like a soul massage. You're getting life force energy back. So when you have that taken away, it's because something from your, something has triggered you, and so that's taken from you. Your ego and personality have been inflicted with a wound. So I feel like with what I do now, I heal that part, and I look at it, and and mold it in such a way where I'm giving it back light and life force. So I'm gently, ascending it and not descending it, and being able to just, I don't know if it was the way I was raised or it's my dad, always chiming in my ear. I don't know what it is, but it's, just being able to decipher, what's worth it and what's not. And I guess that takes practice, but, discipline, which
Yeah.
is a hard word for me. That's usually out of my construct. That is not something, but that's a trigger word for me, but in a good way,
That's again, that points to the perspective that you were talking about, being able to recognize, oh my gosh, the word discipline really triggers me, but also being able to turn it around and say, oh gosh, but if I look at the word discipline from this vantage point, it's actually really good for me. And so then I can feel maybe a little bit more sympathetic towards it. I can feel sympathetic towards myself, maybe even a little bit of compassion. And I loved, I loved what you said about soul massage. It's kind of what Reiki is, right? Is just going in to get your soul massaged.
yeah, it's gentle and calming. You don't have to be naked. It's all good. Just feel.
Exactly.
And
So,
it really is. It's a soothing, comforting. You get all the kinks out. You get all those bumps and bruises, and yeah, all those triggers. I kind
yeah.
of soften the blow a little bit.
Right. And also what was so great about what you said was the idea that when we are triggered, it is like an energetic wound. And if that wound is not attended to, it can drain our energy from us. So, yeah, that was a really, really good point. When was a time that you handled a trigger really well?
Oh man, she's recently.
It doesn't have to be recent. It can
Oh,
be
but
whenever.
it is. I mean, the Sandra Ingerman calls, it's a little bit boast to say you're a shaman, but you can say you're a wounded healer. And I definitely have had moments where I'm a wounded healer, wounded in the sense where how I was triggered in the sense where I could have rebutted in a sense of retaliation and disgust over the fact that I was presented with cookies, and I have a sweet tooth, and that's something that me and my dad shared. So for me to get called out on my cookie consumption was hard, because I had to refrain from not only having to express to me that yes, I understand cookies might have weight gain to them, and I understand I do have a soy allergy. I get that, but I'm going to disregard it because I love cookies. And my trigger was that I was a little chastised over how many I had, and it was just, I was poking the bear when I explained, oh my goodness, I gained 2 pounds from eating cookies. I did not need somebody to rebuttal to me, well, it's because I ate the whole darn box. So that was a trigger for me, because I could have said a lot, and instead I just smirked and enjoyed my cookie. Because I understand that what I did would have caused, an expression. But what triggered me was the fact that it just kept coming out, and I was just like, I have to respectfully not say anything because I know it's my own fault, and not, and also trigger me in the sense where, hey, I have a sweet tooth. I enjoy these darn things, and Santa can share.
So was it Santa that was calling you out on your cookie consumption, or you don't have to answer that.
His reindeer apparently have a serving size. You know, I don't know.
Oh,
It's
I see. Yeah, those reindeer, man, they're not helpful.
so
Well,
yeah.
so it sounds like in that situation, the way that you handled the trigger was by taking ownership. You know, the ownership of, yeah, I know I shouldn't be eating these cookies for, a couple different reasons maybe, but, the fact of the matter is I want to eat these cookies, and I am making that choice, and I'm owning it, regardless of what anybody else says to me.
Yes. I
Which,
appreciate a mentor for that type of leadership, though. There is a mentor, Jocko Willink, and that definitely applies to his leadership abilities. And I think by I taking ownership in how I had to handle that is definitely noted from him, which is good. It means I'm learning and growing in that regard. That's why discipline isn't a trigger anymore, thanks to him.
Okay, yeah. So you could attribute discipline to somebody else other than maybe a wounding figure in your life that kind of lorded discipline over you. You could now see it in somebody else. Is that, how true is that?
Very true. Very much so.
Okay.
I just I had to detach and realize that it could go really bad, and I don't want it to, because what I'm thinking in my head is not what I should be saying, because I want to be on the good list.
Sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, as you've worked on dealing with your own reactions and responses to triggers in your life, how has that work affected maybe how you watch other people being triggered in your life?
I have a hard time sitting still. To watch it is cringy. It's a little cringy.
Sure.
Because you don't want to interrupt their karma, but yet you really want to help them, but you know you shouldn't.
Sure. So you can see what they're stepping in, and you want to warn them, but at the same time they might need to step in that for their own growth and development.
That trigger might just trigger something that might save or make or break their life, and they don't know it. And it's just a matter of how they're going to handle it, I guess. And hopefully there's enough time to be able to go through all that.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of seems like that would be a almost like if we could view that as a fun exercise in a way, like being able to watch someone go through their own trigger and celebrate it with them. I mean, knowing that triggers can be messy, and certainly emotionally and mentally messy, but at the same time, if we could all view that moment as a, yes, I've arrived at a moment in my life where I can take ownership and I can really learn, grow, and develop from this experience. You know, it doesn't seem like we celebrate those moments enough. Instead we just kind of say that, oh, they're bad because they're painful. What do you think about the idea of, you know, working with clients, working with your child, working with your friends around celebrating the triggers rather than, I don't know, complaining about them?
Yeah, celebrate growth. That's a milestone. Yeah, for sure. I mean, don't give them a badge, but at least celebrate, clap, jump up and down, do a happy dance for sure. Yeah. I mean, blow a balloon if you want to, but I don't know, save the energy. But I mean, yeah, that would be great. Because I mean, then that's encouragement. That makes it so that it's not just to be able to embrace it instead of fearing it. Face everything and rise. Don't fear everything and run. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how that goes.
Yeah. I love that. Face everything and rise. So, how might you work with your clients around their triggers if someone comes to you and, you know, you're doing Reiki on them and you can sense some energy at a certain place in their body? How do you go about working with them on that?
I have had that happen though, where I didn't know about somebody's trigger and they had to stop. And so we had to just talk slowly through it and work through it and wait until it was a better time to, you know, go over that. And sometimes it is intense. Energy is very intense. And if you're not ready to let go of what no longer serves you, then you're going to have you know, not an adverse reaction, but certainly a reaction. And I think that, you know, you just, okay, we have to try to move along, and if that's something that they're not willing to let go of, then we'll, you know, try something different, have a different approach, you know, A through Z of different methods. I've had it happen a couple times, and we just had to slow down the session and just talk or switch it up. I do oracle cards, so we just, you know, do something different, and that's okay. And I'm here to have a sacred space, so it's I want them to be safe, and I want that to make sure that that's addressed.
Yeah. So it sounds like when you come across that kind of resistance, you're not going to just power through it and you know, force your way through.
No, we'll sit with it and just, I'll hang out with you in the dark. I'll, you know, and I just don't hang out there too long. I can't sit in the dark too long, but I'll hang out for a little while.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that sounds like a very gentle approach, definitely. What else would you want to say about triggers, or maybe what your next step in the evolution of dealing with your own triggers would you want to add?
Oh man, triggers happen every day, and it's a matter of having the discipline to handle them in such a matter where you have self-control, and you can just try to formulate a better way of handling that. I always make sure that I carry deep protection. Shields up, buttercup is what I say, because if there is anything to that, I just surround myself in white light, and there's nothing that can come through unless I allow it, and nothing can come out unless I allow it. And so I think that from here on out, I really am trying my hardest to make sure that bubble is just immaculate proof. Like, I'm working on it every day, and just I got to know that I'm a wounded healer, and I have to, and I'm human, even though I tend to, feel like I'm more spiritual being than a human being, but I have to separate my ego and personality and realize that no, I'm here to do certain work and learn certain things. So if there is a trigger, it's just having to understand, where I'm at in my journey and what I have to learn from it, and hopefully being able to adapt and overcome.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So, how can viewers learn more about you and perhaps book a Reiki or Oracle card reading session with you?
Oh, goodness. Well, I am very active on Facebook. I am having some collaborations on YouTube with my friend Shakanda on Reiki Partners in Crime, and also doing some fun events with Which Do You, which is a group of ladies that are doing all sorts of different fun spiritual stuff and woo-woo things. And you can go on Facebook and have any type of services, and geez, oh Pete's, all my fun stuff I think is mostly on Facebook. Or you can get a hold of me and shoot me a text, 517-505-8982.
All right. Awesome. Well, hopefully, our conversation on triggers today resonates with you all. Thank you so much for watching. I'm always so grateful for your presence whenever it is, whether it's been now or in the future. And please, if you like what we are talking about today, and you think there's someone in your life who might benefit from hearing this conversation, please share it with them. Please please subscribe. Check out Reiki Partners in Crime on YouTube. There are videos there as well that if you're interested in these videos, you're probably going to be interested in those videos too. And you can stay tuned to my updates on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, all the good stuff. And if there's anything you'd like help with related to a transition in your life, go ahead and send me a message too, or come visit both Claire and me at our shop downtown St. John's. The sign says Infinity Wellness. Eventually I'll have a sign up there as well, I hope.
Yes.
So, and remember that it's okay to be stuck, but you don't have to stay there. Have an amazing week, everyone, and